Right now, something is falling toward you. Most of it is dust, but not all of it. Somewhere out there is a rock with a date and a time already attached to it. A comet your grandchildren will watch. A star with an arrival slot booked 1,000,000 years from now. And a galaxy, 2.5 million light-years wide, closing on us at 250,000 miles an hour. This is the inbound list. 9 entries, smallest to largest, every one of them real, named, and already in motion. And the last entry is the one that actually frightens astronomers because it doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a name because we haven't found it yet. Number 1, the dust. We start with what's arriving while you watch this. Every day, roughly 48 tons of material from space falls into Earth's atmosphere. The weight of a loaded semi-truck, dropped out of the sky, broken into pieces mostly smaller than a grain of sand. About 5,000 tons of it reaches the ground each year. It's in your gutters, in Antarctic snow, and some of it is in your lungs. You never notice because of speed. These grains hit the air at tens of thousands of miles an hour and burn out 50 miles above your head, which means every shooting star you have ever wished on was a piece of this list arriving. You were watching a delivery. Dust comes at random, from everywhere, but some of what's heading toward Earth arrives on a schedule, and one of those schedules has a hole in it nobody can explain. Number 2, the Taurid Swarm. Every autumn, Earth flies through a river of debris shed by a comet called Encke. That's what makes the Taurid meteors, the slow orange fireballs people call Halloween fireballs. Almost all of it is gravel, but some researchers think something denser hides inside that river. A clump of fragments tens to hundreds of meters across, held in place by Jupiter's gravity. They call it the resonant swarm. In 1908, an object about 100 meters wide exploded over Siberia and flattened 2,000 square kilometers of forest, an area larger than Greater London, without leaving a crater. Trace its path backwards, and you get a Taurid orbit. And in 1975, while Earth was crossing the swarm, the seismometers Apollo astronauts left on the moon began registering impacts. Now the honest part. The swarm might not exist. Surveys keep coming up empty, and nothing found so far is big enough to threaten the planet. What nobody has ruled out is a population of Tunguska-sized rocks. Earth's next pass through where the swarm should be is November 2032, the closest since 1975. With the Taurids, we at least know when to look. The next entry we didn't see at all, not until it had already gone past. Number 3, Asteroid 2024YR4, between 53 and 67 meters wide, about as tall as the Leaning Tower of Pisa, big enough to erase a city. It was discovered on the 27th of December, 2024, 2 days after it had already made its closest approach because it came at us out of the day side, from the direction of the sun, where our telescopes are blind. What followed was the biggest planetary defense scare on record. Its odds of hitting Earth in December 2032 climbed to around 3%, higher than any asteroid had ever been rated, and for the first time in history, the world's space agencies triggered a coordinated international response. By March 2025, better measurements ruled Earth out. Then the moon's odds started climbing instead, up to 4.3%. Then in February 2026, fresh James Webb data ruled that out too. It'll miss the lunar surface by 13,000 miles. So it's a non-event, and that is exactly why it belongs here. The most alarming asteroid ever recorded turned out to be harmless, and we still only found it on the way out. Flip the geometry, have it arriving instead of leaving, and the warning would have been 0. That one showed up unannounced. The next has a date, a time, and half the planet already planning to look up. Number 4, Apophis, roughly 375 meters across, the Eiffel Tower lying on its side, and named, before anyone knew better, after the Egyptian god of chaos. Friday the 13th of April, 2029, Apophis passes within about 20,000 miles of Earth's surface, 1/10 of the way to the moon, and inside the ring of geostationary satellites that carry your television, close enough to see with your bare eyes, at around second magnitude, as bright as the stars of the Big Dipper, crossing a full moon's width of sky every minute. It is the first asteroid in history whose visible pass we've known about years ahead. Here's the part that makes no sense. We aren't just watching it, we're using it. Earth's gravity will physically work this thing over, tugging at its surface, cracking it, changing which class of orbit it belongs to. So NASA redirected the spacecraft that visited Bennu, renamed it OSIRIS-APEX, and sent it to meet Apophis on arrival. Europe and Japan are launching a second mission, Ramses, in 2028, to be parked and filming before the flyby even starts. We've turned a near miss into a laboratory. Apophis will miss. We're certain of that for at least a century. The next entry offers no such certainty. Instead of a spacecraft, it comes with a keyhole. Number 5. Bennu, half a kilometer wide, 74 million tons, and a date, the 24th of September, 2182. The odds are 1 in 2,700, a third of 1%. Small. But how those odds work is the strange part. In 2135, Bennu passes close to Earth and our gravity bends its path. Inside that flyby are a few narrow corridors astronomers call keyholes. And if Bennu threads one, it comes back on target 47 years later. It's a putt that has to roll through one specific gap now to drop in half a century from now. We won't know which way it went until 2135. And here's what separates Bennu from everything else on this list. We've been there. OSIRIS-APEX spent 2 years orbiting it, touched its surface in 2020, and in September 2023 dropped a capsule into the Utah desert holding 121 grams of it. Bennu is the only object on this entire manifest that human beings have physically held. And when researchers simulated an impact at that scale, the answer wasn't a crater, it was weather. Enough dust thrown into the stratosphere to dim the sunlight, drop global temperatures, and fail harvests on every continent at once. Bennu is rock, and a piece of it is sitting in a lab right now. The next one is mostly ice. Nobody alive has touched it, and almost everyone knows its name. Number 6. Halley's Comet. It's out beyond Neptune's distance right now, in the coldest stretch of its 76-year loop, and it has already turned around. It's falling back toward us, closest pass to the sun, the 28th of July, 2061. If you're under 40, this is very likely the one you get. Your parents or grandparents had 1986. In 1910, people panicked hard enough to buy anti-comet pills. In 1066, it hung over England before the Norman conquest and got stitched into the Bayeux tapestry as an omen. Chinese astronomers wrote it down in 240 BC, all the same object, the same dirty lump of ice, keeping the same appointment through every empire in recorded history. But every appointment costs it something. Each pass by the sun boils away another layer, and Halley is slowly emptying itself out. One day it'll come around as a dark husk nobody notices. A comet leaves and comes back. The next thing on this list has never been here before, and it isn't a rock, it's a star. Number 7. Gliese 710. Tonight, it's a dim orange dwarf 62 light-years away, about 60% the mass of our sun, invisible to you without a telescope. It is also the closest future stellar encounter in the entire catalog of stars we've measured. In roughly 1.3 million years, Gliese 710 passes straight through the Oort cloud, the shell of 1 trillion frozen comets wrapped around the outer edge of the sun's reach. The star won't hit anything. It doesn't need to. Roll a bowling ball slowly across a floor scattered with marbles. The ball never touches the walls, but the marbles go everywhere. A passing star nudges comets loose, and some of them fall inward. A slow, scattered bombardment lasting millions of years. And whatever is alive here to see it will watch something no human ever has. A new light appearing in the sky, growing brighter, century after century, until it outshines every star up there. You can nudge a rock off course. We proved that in 2022. You cannot deflect a star. A star is the biggest single object that will ever come at us. But the biggest thing on this list isn't a single object at all. It's already as wide as your whole night sky. You just can't tell, because from here it still looks like a smudge. Number 8. The Andromeda Galaxy. 2.5 million light-years away, around 1 trillion stars, and on a clear autumn night, far enough from streetlights, you can see it with your bare eyes. A faint gray oval, the most distant thing any human has ever seen unaided. Almost everything in the universe is running away from us. Expansion stretches its light toward red. Andromeda's light is squeezed the other way, toward blue. It is the one enormous thing in the sky genuinely coming closer, at roughly 250,000 miles an hour. For decades, this was taught as settled. In about 4.5 billion years, the two galaxies collide and merge into one blob, nicknamed Milkometa. Then in 2025, a team ran over 100,000 simulations of our galactic neighborhood, using new Hubble and Gaia data, including the pull of the smaller galaxies nobody had properly accounted for. The near certainty collapsed into a coin flip, around 50% over the next 10 billion years. A head-on collision, under 2%. So the largest entry on the manifest, the one you can walk outside and see tonight, is the one we are now least sure will ever arrive. Which brings us to the final entry, because every object so far has shared one thing. Somebody found it. Number 9, the one with no name. There are more than 41,000 near-Earth asteroids on the books, each one cataloged and tracked. Its orbit solved centuries into the future. That's the reassuring number. Here's the other one. In February 2026, NASA's acting planetary defense officer stood up at a science conference and said that roughly 15,000 near-Earth objects 140 meters or larger are still undiscovered, each one big enough to flatten a region, not just a city, and that the survey meant to find them is only about 40% complete. The gap isn't random. It has a shape, and the shape is the sun. Try spotting a dark car coming down a road at night with a stadium floodlight aimed into your eyes. An entire direction of approach is simply unavailable to us. On the 15th of February, 2013, a rock about 20 meters wide came in over Chelyabinsk, Russia, and exploded hard enough to blow out windows across the city and injure more than 1,000 people. Nobody saw it coming, not one telescope. It arrived out of the sun's glare, and the first anyone knew of it was the fireball. 2024YR4 came from that same blind side, and we found it 2 days late. We are building the fix. NEO Surveyor launches in September 2027, hunting asteroids by the heat they radiate instead of the light they reflect, so darkness stops working as camouflage. Europe's NEO Mir would follow in the 2030s, staring closer still into the glare, and even with both of them flying, some of what hides in there stays invisible, so the manifest isn't finished. There's a row on it with no name, no diameter, and no date, and the reason it's blank isn't that nothing is there, it's that we're looking into the light. Every one of these was already moving before you clicked. They'll still be moving after you close this. The only thing that has ever changed, the only variable we have ever had any say over, is how much of it we can see coming. Comment blank row if you made it all the way to number 9, so I know who stayed for the one without a name. Leave a like to tell the algorithm you're watching the sky, and the next specimen in the archive is already waiting.